What happens when the founder of a major car dealership decides to ensure that his business is operating with integrity and discovers something that turns his perception of the company upside down? Let's dive into the story of Mark Hudson, owner of Hudson Motors, and see how transforming himself into an ordinary customer helped him uncover the company's hidden problems and change its future. By the age of 48, Mark Hudson had turned a small family business into one of the largest and most successful car dealership chains in the Western United States. His journey began with a simple car dealership in Phoenix, but through persistence, honesty, and a strategic approach, he built a true empire, Hudson Motors, which eventually expanded to dozens of branches nationwide. At the heart of his success was a simple yet effective philosophy: offer customers exceptional quality vehicles without compromising integrity, and always show respect for each customer. The company gained the recognition and trust of consumers by providing not only the best buying conditions, but also full transparency in transactions, which became the key to its impeccable reputation. In recent months, Mark Hudson had begun to worry about the troubling signals coming from customers. Complaints started to appear online, with customers criticizing aggressive sales tactics and hidden defects in cars discovered after purchase. Despite continued sales growth, according to internal reports, the feedback on the service became increasingly negative. Moreover, several key managers suddenly left the company, citing changes in the corporate culture, which also alarmed Mark. One complaint in particular caught his attention. A customer described his experience as follows: "I purchased a car from Hudson Motors, and a week later it broke down. When I went to the service center, I was told it was my fault, but the mechanic later admitted they had been instructed to cover up the factory defect." This candid feedback deeply disturbed Mark. He could not believe that his company, built with so much love and responsibility, could have breached its principles like this. He decided to get to the bottom of the issue to prevent the deterioration of the reputation that was so important to him. Mark made a firm and decisive decision. Instead of addressing the problems through reports and meetings with management, he decided to personally assess the situation and see things for himself. With the help of a trusted assistant, he created an entirely new persona for himself: Mike Randall, a regular shopper just looking for a used car. For this experiment, he chose one of the most profitable, but also one of the most troubled dealerships in San Diego, which often received negative customer reviews. To blend in discreetly with the crowd, he wore modest clothes, an old baseball cap, and drove his old Toyota to the dealership. This allowed him to be just one of many customers without drawing attention to himself, giving him the chance to accurately assess what was really going on. From the moment he entered the dealership, Mark sensed that the atmosphere here was far from the values he had tried to instill in his company. Instead of friendly and caring staff, he was greeted by sales manager Dan Harris, a smiling but clearly overly aggressive man who immediately tried to gain his trust. "What are you looking for?" Dan asked, eyeing him appraisingly. "A reliable used sedan, budget of $20,000, Mark replied, trying not to give away his true identity. Dan didn't hesitate to offer a terrific deal: a practically brand new 2020 Ford Fusion with minimal mileage. The car looked immaculate: clean interior, shiny paint, and all the paperwork in order. But Mark, being a seasoned professional in this business, requested a test drive and asked to look under the hood. As soon as he got behind the wheel, he immediately sensed something was wrong. The steering felt clunky, and the brakes responded with a noticeable delay. Questions began to arise, and Mark decided to clarify. "Are you sure there's nothing wrong with the car? No accidents?" he asked, pretending to doubt. Dan quickly assured him that the car was in perfect condition, and even showed him the car's history report, which indicated that there had been no accidents. However, despite the seller's assurances, Mark couldn't believe his words and continued to monitor every step of the buying process. To continue his investigation, Mark asked to borrow the car for a day to have it diagnosed, under the pretext of finalizing the deal. But he was politely refused. At that point, he decided to approach the situation differently. He signed up for an inspection at an independent car service, pretending to be an ordinary buyer so as not to arouse suspicion. The result was shocking. The mechanic reported that the car had been in a serious accident. The airbags had been replaced, part of the body had been rebuilt after the impact, and the mileage had clearly been tampered with. By all standards, this car wasn't worth $10,000, let alone the $20,000 they were asking for it in the showroom. Back at the dealership, Mark decided to see the experiment through to the end. He told Dan about the mechanic's findings, claiming that the expert he knew had noticed signs of repair, but Dan just grinned and replied, "Sir, believe me, you've gotten too caught up in the articles on the internet. Everything in this car is in perfect condition. If you want it, take it, and if not, I have other buyers." That was the final straw for Mark. He realized that someone in his company had turned an honest and transparent business into a sham, undermining the foundation of trust on which his entire empire had been built. 3 days after the incident, Mark decided to hold an extraordinary meeting. He didn't hide the truth and told the entire story in detail, providing photos and documents that confirmed the falsification of reports. It turned out that this issue wasn't limited to the San Diego branch. Similar manipulations with used car data were happening at several other dealerships across the company. "You've forgotten what we created Hudson Motors for. We have never taken advantage of our customers' trust," he said firmly to the assembled employees. That meeting marked a turning point for the company. What followed was the largest personnel purge in Hudson Motors history. Dan Harris and 7 other managers were immediately fired and replaced by trusted professionals whom Mark knew personally and had confidence in for their integrity. The changes weren't just about staffing. They also affected the company's operations. Mark introduced new strict policies: mandatory inspection of all cars by an independent third party to eliminate the possibility of tampering, full customer access to a car's history through verified and reliable databases, mandatory ethics training for sales managers to ensure that every employee was focused on honest service and transparent transactions. The first months after implementing these reforms were tough. Sales dropped noticeably, and customers were wary, unsure if things would return to normal. However, 6 months later, the situation had improved. Hudson Motors gradually regained customer confidence. The new strategy paid off. Customers began recommending the company to their friends and acquaintances, and the brand's reputation was once again on the rise. Today, Mark Hudson continues to personally inspect his company's showrooms, not only in a business suit, but also as a mystery shopper. This experience became an important lesson for him, learned firsthand. Trust can be built over years, but it can be lost in an instant. If you run a business, remember, sometimes the only way to learn the truth about your company is to look at it through your customers' eyes, so you can notice things that might have escaped your attention. If this story has inspired you, subscribe to the channel. More exciting stories of business, success, and unexpected twists of fate are coming your way. See you soon.